Welcome to the video. So it's been quite a while since I've made a video, so you're probably gonna have to bear with me here. But I think I've noticed a pretty important pattern, and we're gonna look at it in this video. But before we begin, I'm just gonna read a quick and simple gospel. John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And it's as simple as that. It doesn't matter how good of a person you've been in your life, or how often you've gone to church, or even prayed. The only thing that matters is believing in his sacrifice on the cross and what he did for us. That is our only path to salvation. It's a free gift, and all we have to do is accept it. That's all you have to do. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to the notes here. And we're going to look at a pattern I noticed. We're actually going to start with the second point first here. So this is what kind of walked me on to a specific date, and everything kind of just unfolded after that. So this is the earthquake in Julian, California. So I'll see if I can pull that up here first. Okay, so I should have had this already. Okay, 5.2. Yeah, a 5.2 magnitude earthquake struck near Julian, California on April 14th, 2025. So we're going to go to the date calculator here. So originally, Brother Dana believed that the 5.2 magnitude denoted May 2nd as the obviously Julian date, as Julian, California points to the Julian calendar, which is 13 days behind the Gregorian calendar, which is just the standard calendar everyone uses. However, I believed that the date it happened was actually significant as well. So we're going to go to the date calculator here, and we're going to take, it happened in April, right? Yeah. Okay, April. I had the wrong date there. Okay. Oh no, that wasn't even the right calculation. Okay, so we're going to go to, sorry, that was the birth date of Israel. Okay, so April 14th, 2025, and we're going to add 52 days since the magnitude was 5.2. This brings us to June 5th, 2025. So we'll just write that down in our notes here. So Julian date equals June 5th, 2025. This would be 6-5. So as I've pointed out in previous posts, this like kind of 6-5, 2-6, 2-9 is very significant in their symbolism. You have Super Bowl 59, which happened on it was February, so we'll just put the 2-9-2025. So if you take the 2, the 9, you flip it around, you can get either any kind of combination of 6, 9, and 2 and 5. So this would definitely be something that we're looking for. So if this is our Julian date, then that would mean our Gregorian date would be June 18th, 2025. So this actually also happens to be a third quarter moon, which if you've followed my posts and any other channel, you'll have seen that there is no shortage of third quarter moon symbolism in the enemy symbolism. It might be the most prevalent symbolism that they have. It's so common, but this became very, very important. Everything kind of it seemed to fall in place very well. Although I'm not going to say like this is the date just yet. You can make your own conclusion after this video. There's a lot more to cover, but the interesting thing for me is that on June 17th to 20th is the two-state solution UN conference. And if we look at, I don't know if I have a note for it, but I think I did. Oh, it's right at the very end. We'll cover that at the end. But if you read Joel chapter 3, verse 2, it's the time period within that verse, the Valley of Jehoshaphat. That's believed to be also the Valley of Armageddon. So that would be the very end of the tribulation. And in that verse, it denotes that Israel has been parted. The land has been parted. So the only thing that really would make sense for that would be a two-state solution. So having this kind of two-state solution conference around this time period, which seems to be a lot of symbolism converges then, is very, very interesting. It also makes things very complicated, since as you'll see within this video, pretty much all of the symbolism I look at converges around this date, which makes this very interesting because if the church is going to be caught up by Christ prior to the conclusion of this conference, you have to imagine that any sense of normality is gone for quite a while following this event. So, for policy to be made shortly after that, it simply wouldn't make a lot of sense. Which, if you've been following my post, you'll have seen that there's definitely a lot of moving parts in this. And as the Lord told Dan, or the angel told Daniel in the book of Daniel, the vision will be sealed up until the end. So you won't understand it until it happens for the most part. The most we can do is kind of analyze that and interpret it the best way we can. But I'll get back to my very first point here. Took a bit of a tangent, but so this is very very interesting because if you recall in March, when Robert Pent and I were looking at March, it was so heavy symbolically with the blood moon and a great deal of the enemy symbolism. It seemed to all converge in March, but as you know, nothing happened. The church is still here. So what I believe is that all of the symbolism in March was actually just a kind of like representation of Sivan, which is the third month on the Hebrew calendar. So we're going to look at that. I'm going to show you why this could be very, very important. So we'll pull up the Torah calendar here. Sorry if this is kind of like a messy video. I didn't organize this the best I could, but there's a lot to cover. So this is month 3. So this is Sivan, and this is overlaying June 2025. So it's actually very interesting. So we have our, I'll see if they have the June. So we have our full moon in June 2025 on the 11th. So it's very, very interesting in that that is 3:14 over our full moon. So blood moon, March 2025. That was our pi blood moon. If this loads. Oh. I should probably connect to load that. Yeah, so March 13th to 14th, 2025, so pi 3.14, total lunar eclipse. So it's very, very interesting that we have that overlaid with our full moon for the month. So you could definitely see how that kind of symbolism would apply to Sivan. So that's a lot of what we're going to be looking at in this video. It's going to get a little more complicated than that. But so the next thing is another thing that's I found very very prevalent in enemy symbolism was 322 and 222. So you would be thinking, which is what I thought, like how are these compatible? So if we have 322, if you recall from The Dark Knight Rises, that was written on the stadium when there was an explosion, and I'll show you many other places where this pops up. 222 is also incredibly common as well. If we go to, let's just go to the classroom and iPad Go, and I'll show you a few examples here. So I am not a big math person, but someone pointed out that this denotes as above, so below, which has a ordinal gematria value, or reverse ordinal, I'll have to check, of 222. You have the brain here. This denotes National Thinking Day, which was February 22nd. And if we just go over to lavender here, we have a picture of George Washington here. And it's very interesting because I was reading the book for Leave the World Behind, and I'll just pull up birthdays. So, of course, he's born on February 22nd. So the 222 is very common in their symbolism. And the very interesting thing is that you won't notice this if you watch the movie for Leave the World Behind, but the character for GH, his full name is actually George Washington. Like the G stands for George, and his last name is Washington. I'll see if I can pull that up here as well. So you see that in a lot of their symbolism. Come on now. So G.H. Scott. Okay, so they changed the name for the movie. That's very interesting. The most interesting thing I found about reading the book is, and having watched the movie, is to see the discrepancies, what they left out, what they included, and that's very interesting because his name in the book is George Washington, although they just call him GH because having a name after like the first president is pretty ridiculous. But so we'll go back to the note here. So yeah, that's you see the 222 a lot, and I'm going to show you where we're going to see the 322. So you would think that these are incompatible, as this would be the third month, second month, 222. But I'm going to show you how they might actually be compatible. So we'll take 322, 222. So this is also in the like the movie 222 is literally the name of the movie, and everything kind of converges at the specific time of 222. So what we're going to assume this is here is 2 months and 22 days. So you would think that 2 months and 22 days would be February 22nd, but actually that would be March 23rd. So third month, 23rd day. So that's what you would be on after this has elapsed. So for all our purposes, we can just assume that's 322 as well. So the 222 could very well represent the 322, which shows why we see both of those in the enemy symbolism, even though it seems like they'd be mutually exclusive. So we're going to look at a couple things where that pops up here. So I believe this is actually the very first video I covered on my channel. This is Marilyn Monroe by Pharrell, and it's a very heavily symbolic video. Well, actually, we'll just watch it front to back. Well, I'll skip the unimportant parts, but so this scene's very interesting. I've been thinking about this one quite a lot. So we have the full moon here, and everything is pink. And I believe that even though they still show you a lot of pink, that could very well just be denoting, like for example, you have the pink chair here. There's pink there, and there's a lot of pink in iPet Go 2. But the pink moon was in April, so for anyone new, I'll just cite that here. Pink moon. So April was the pink moon. So, however, I'm going to make a lot of notes for this video. On the old Roman calendar, June was the fourth month. So I could see how a lot of their pink symbolism could just be around June, because the fourth month is April, but really it's June. So you could see how that's kind of confusing, but it does make sense. So we have pink here, that could be denoting just the fourth month, full moon. And so there's your 4 trees right there, actually. And over here we have 2. So this is very interesting, as the June full moon was on June 11th. So what we could actually be looking at here is still like June, but then this could be 11, and it's shown to us in just 2 ones. Or if you reduce 11, it just gives you 2. So we have the reduced values here. So I believe what we're looking at here is the June moon. So I'll just keep playing this. So he goes up to her and she disappears, symbolizing the bride of Christ being taken or disappearing. So you'd think that it occurs on the full moon, but I'm going to just give you a spoiler alert here, and we're going to go to the end of the video. And as a lot of their symbolism, they'll show you the real moon phase, which is the third quarter moon. So that is something to keep in mind as we continue watching. But I'm going to go through to the more important parts here. So if you want to see a more in-depth analysis of this video, just go back to some of my older videos I've covered in quite detail. But I'm going to show you the kind of confusing parts here. So this is kind of interesting. I think they should. They show you like jelly beans here, and there's like National Jelly Bean Day was April 22nd. Okay, I guess I'm going to miss that shot. There it is. There's some jelly beans. Not them, but there's jelly beans there. National Jelly Bean Day is April 22nd. April was originally the second month. So you have 222. There's another like 222 for you. And this is the very, very interesting scene here. So when I was covering this scene in March, it seemed almost like too obvious. Far more obvious than a lot of the other symbolism. So I knew there was a little more to it. So we have his hats denote the moon throughout the video. So we have the worm moon here. You have the hole on one side and there's the hole on the other. So the March moon is the worm moon. So the worm moon's for the March full moon. But for our purposes here, we're just going to assume that this just means third month. And the arrow here, and she comes out holding a bow, that represents Sagittarius. So I'll show you how this is very interesting and would it be confusing. So we have third month and Sagittarius, and we've already been shown a third quarter moon. So I'll show you what seems like the very obvious day where this would be. So this is March 22nd, 2025, and the moon, which is a third quarter moon at the time, so a third quarter moon, is in Sagittarius. So this would seem incredibly obvious. Everything just perfectly lines up, and you would think this is exactly the departure. And you see Sagittarius very, very often as well in a lot of their other symbolism. So it seems very obvious, but I'm going to show you how this could be hiding the real date of the departure of the church. So we're going to go to June here, and our third quarter moon in June occurs on the 18th. So if we go to the Torah calendar here, the 18th of June is, well, it's between 21st and 22nd. Or, yeah, for 21st and 22nd. And it's the third month. So there's our 322. So even though they may be showing us exactly 322 in March here, funny enough, the third quarter moon is also the 18th in June, and it just so happens to be 322. So what are the chances of that? You have the third quarter moon, 322. It lines up very, very well. So that part is incredibly interesting. So I don't think there's anything else I want to cover in the rest of this video, but I might cover it more later, but that's the important part I wanted to show. I'll just go back to the notes here. So next up we have cannons here. This one's another very, very obviously symbolic video. However, I believe the reality of the symbolism is a little more complicated, just how we saw in the previous video, the Marilyn Monroe video. So this girl comes out in red here. These guys are in red. Obviously what's being symbolized here is the blood moon. And then if you want to see more of this video, as I said, just go back in my older videos, but I'm just going to get to the more important part for anyone who's been following this channel for quite a while. So you have the people being taken away on the side, that's symbolizing the believers being taken away. And her nose starts bleeding, just to drive home the point if you didn't know that she was the blood moon here. So, and then we'll get fast forward to the important part here. So we have the blood moon, and then we're shown here, when the hurricane starts, the third quarter moon. So this piece of paper gets stuck on this guy's face for like 5 seconds, and that's their way of showing the third quarter moon. So again, you would think this is the since March's full moon was the Pi blood moon, you would think it's March blood moon, third quarter moon. It seems very easy, but I think it's the exact same thing as what we saw in the previous video, where really it is just 322 in June, so June 18th to 19th, or yeah, 17th to those 2 days, you know what I mean. It's been a while since I made a video. And I'm going to show you another thing that's, this one's very, very intricate, but it's I've covered this before as well. We have 1,028 days left. So if you don't remember, this is where there was a protest on a tennis court at the French Open, or whatever it's called, and this woman tied herself to the tennis post, and she had a shirt that said, we have 1,028 days left to decide. It didn't say to decide, but that was like her kind of whatever she's fighting for. So I'll try and run through this pretty quick. So this happened on June 3rd, 2022. So I think I have the date calculator here. So I'll show you why I use 1,023 days as opposed to 1,028. So in a lot of the pictures, she's holding up a one hand, which symbolizes 5. So generally you add the 5. However, I'll show you why you take away the 5 instead. So we go forward from that, and that brings us to 322. So another 322. So very important. And I'll show you how I can verify this. So how many days here? How did I actually do this again? So, sorry, it's been a while, but The Strong's Concordance for the dist. Actually, I know how I did this. Okay, so we're gonna go to 3/22/2025. So this gives us 2 years, 9 months, and 19 days. So 2 years, 9 months, 2919, and we're gonna put in Strong's. And this comes out to judge, to decide. So her whole thing was we have 1,028 days to decide. I'll go here. But yeah, that's how we kind of confirm that what we were really looking at is 1,023 days, and that just confirmed with the Strong's Concordance there. I'll get rid of that. But the important thing is the date we took away from that, and it's another 322. Not to mention, if we go to iPad Go 2 and we look at the teacher's hair, there's another 322 there, I believe. Yeah, right there. So there's 3, 2, 2. So they show us that again. And yeah, the next thing I wanted to look at was just the Economist cover. So this one's, we'll look at that one later. So this is the, normally there's the title there that says we have, or say goodbye to 1.5 C, so Celsius, but really that's 153, 153 fish caught up. That's representative of the church. So we have our blood moon represented here, and again we have our arrow for Sagittarius. So we can just assume this is another 322 because we have our blood moon. So I think my door just blew open. One sec. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. It's very very windy here and raining, and my door blew open, and Shiloh, my dog, was outside, and he didn't want to be in the rain, so that worked out well for him. He's in now. But yeah, we have the blood moon in Sagittarius, which again is just our 322. So this one could be, sorry, interpreted in very many ways. It's a very kind of vague symbolism, but I believe that's again just pointing to the 322. So let's see what else I have here. So yeah, we'll go to another one here. We'll go to the Economist tarot card cover. So down here you have your blood moon depicted here, a V here for two two. So V is 22 in ordinal, and over here we have a lunar eclipse in this is a Leo here, which was the lunar eclipse was to the left of Leo in March 2025. So it's very unmistakable. We're looking at a blood moon here, and the interesting thing is that we have, I believe, 14, 15, and 8. So we have 20, 22 to 23 if you count the middle star. So we have our 22 or 23 here. So again, they're just showing us the 22, which you see very, very often. I'll show that in iPad Go 2 here. I'm kind of all over the place today, but it's been like a month and a bit since I made a video. So we have the teardrop here, which is a V. So V is 22. And then if we go to lavender here, we have the cigar being put out on 22. So another 22. So a lot of 22s. And yeah, that's there's only a couple things I wanted to cover still. I'll go over to the iPad Go to Apple scene. So Robert just did a great video on this. I'm gonna go over it as well, just to kind of give my opinion here. So I think this scene is the most important scene within the video because it gives us such an unmistakable point in time. This is denoting the Rosh Hashanah eclipse that occurred on October 2nd, 2024. It was a wedding ring or a ring of fire eclipse, so that's why it's a complete circle. The honey and the apple are for Rosh Hashanah, which is the Feast of Trumpets. Those kind of foods are representative of that feast. As well, her hair, if you look up the totality or path of the eclipse, it's pretty much the exact same thing. So this is a very unmistakable, as well as the eclipse occurred over Easter Island. And when it goes dark, only the rabbit and the exit door are lit up. So the rabbit could be denoting Easter, so where the eclipse was over Easter Island, or that was where the totality or the maximum eclipse was. As well as the red lit up exit door, that could just be representative of our blood moon, which is really just representative of the Sivan, the third month. So that's why I believe this scene is incredibly important, because it gives us such a solid marker of time, as well as, so when it rolls, it rolls. Robert said it rolled 7 times, but I counted the first roll when it falls out of her hand, so I have 8, and it works out because when the apple does split open, you get not a lily. Is it a lily? Lotus. No, it's a lotus. You have the lotus flower, and June is the lotus moon. So I'm not going to go over this one too detailed in this video. I might just make another one where I'll go over it in kind of like excruciating detail. As well, when it opens up there, we have the 2-2. So that could be Sivan 22nd. So I think for anyone who is left behind, or yeah, anyone that's left behind, this is going to be arguably the most important scene in order to kind of realize the enemy symbolism is not so much predictive as a plan as much as it is a plan. So it's going to be a very, very important scene for those left behind. But yeah, I think it's incredibly important, and I think it unmistakably shows us 8 months from the Rosh Hashanah eclipse, which takes us to our full moon, which is going to be occurring in I think 4 days now. So very, very important scene, and I just want to stress how close we are to that. The June moon is also known as the strawberry moon, and in the back here you have it looks like 3 strawberries. That could be 3 for 3 months, so that would be Sivan. Yes, it's very, very very, very important scene. But I'll go back over here. So the last thing I'll talk about here is just the Joel 3:2 and Daniel 9:27. So I don't have these pulled up, so I would recommend just pausing the video and pulling up those verses. But so the Joel 3:2, as I said before, is about Armageddon. It's the very end of the tribulation, and it stresses how, or it doesn't stress, but it denotes how Israel has been divided. So the question then becomes, what point exactly would this happen? I have to believe that this would have to occur prior to the tribulation at the very least, and perhaps before the church departs. So I do believe, I've talked with a couple subscribers about this, but I do believe there is a gap between the departure of the church and then the beginning of the tribulation. So there's some very, very interesting ways to arrive at this. The first point that's very, very important is Israel is 77, and Jacob's trouble began at 77. So I do not believe that Israel is going to make it to 78 without the Daniel 9:27 covenant happening. So they turned 77 last month, so that is, they have 11 months left. So that's 11 months for the church to depart, sudden destruction from 1 Thessalonians 5:3, rise of the AC, who will make a covenant with them. And that is only a few things, but for that to happen in 11 months, I think the church needs to be out of here very, very soon, because that is a lot of time that is going to need to pass for these things to happen. Time which is very little until Israel is 78. So I believe the Daniel 9:27 covenant will be confirmed before they turn 78. Another interesting thing is that, although you can definitely disagree with me on this, I believe Christ was crucified on April 3rd or second. So you can disagree with me on that. So that is 33 AD. So the difference between that time and now is 1,993 years and 2 months. So that would leave only 10 months until. Is it 93 yet? So it would be. Sorry, I'm doing the math right here. But ultimately, there's pretty well just close to 7 years left between the 2,000 year mark, which most people believe Christ will return at the 2,000 year mark. And the typologies definitely confirm it. Like Christ waited 2 days before going to revive Lazarus, as well as there's a great deal of other kind of 2 day typologies in regards to Jesus. So the 2 days could very well equal to or symbolize 2,000 years. So, and that would be on the millennial week. So the fact that Israel is 77 and there's just close to 7 years left before 2,000 years since Christ was crucified, everything lines up just incredibly for Israel to become a nation and be 77, just as there's like 7 years left before 2,000 years since Christ was crucified. Just incredible. It's you truly have to be not wanting to believe it if you're an unbeliever. You would have to go out of your way to to kind of like make some mental acrobats to not believe that this is very well the time that he's going to be coming back or coming to get us and then coming back at the end of the tribulation. So that's incredibly interesting. But my point for all of that, if I can circle back, is that I believe that Israel will be divided before the tribulation. So as I pointed out earlier, we have the June 17th to 20th two-state solution conference. Would it be possible for Israel to be divided at that conference? I don't believe it would, because that would have to be a resolution signed by the UN, and it would probably have to take a lot more than just 3 days of discussing it. Obviously, anything can happen. Things are very unpredictable right now. However, if the church is going to depart in June, which I believe it is, too much symbolism converges at this time for me to believe that they're not leaving very soon, let alone all of these things that need to happen. I think the church will depart, and it could coincide with Israel being divided. So I'll go back to the iPad Goat 2 video here. So I believe in Zechariah chapter 2 verse 8, Israel is called the apple of his eye, the apple of God's eye. And in this scene, the apple could very well be representing Israel as well. So we have the apple being divided. So that could be the two-state solution on the 22nd, which in this case would have to be Sivan 2-2, which would be June 18th to 19th. So could this all coincide? It's going to be incredibly interesting to see. I'm definitely going to be watching for that. It would make sense, and it would be pretty much the only thing that would make sense within this kind of symbolism. So I don't know too much about UN conferences, but if they do create the state of Palestine there, it would we'd be out of here. That'd be the last thing that would confirm it for me. But yeah, sorry if this video is one of my most like unorganized videos, but yeah, this is I think we're incredibly close, and I think the picture is just going to become clearer as we approach it. But yes, I think time is very, very short, and yeah, it's getting exciting. But thank you guys for watching the video, and who knows, maybe I'll have some more videos. But yeah, I think we're very, very close. Maranatha. Please like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. God bless you.